Hello and welcome to World News on TVP World. I'm Marie Cato. Vladimir Putin's advisor Yuri Ushakov said that a temporary ceasefire would give nothing to Russia, effectively rejecting the U.S. proposed plan. Meanwhile, a U.S. delegation led by Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is in Moscow to discuss the potential ceasefire. Ukraine has already agreed to the proposed 30-day ceasefire. Prior to the ceasefire talks, Kremlin's aide Yuri Ushakov said that a U.S. proposed 30-day ceasefire would only be a temporary respite for Ukraine. Speaking to Russian media on Thursday morning, he added that Moscow is interested in pursuing long-term solutions that align with Kremlin's objectives. Moscow's stated war goals, which include annexing large swaths of Ukrainian territory, barring Ukraine from ever joining NATO, and installing a pro-Kremlin government in Kyiv, remain unchanged. Meanwhile, Trump has said that if Kremlin does not accept the proposals, he is prepared to ramp up sanctions on Russia and increase armed deliveries to Ukraine. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has called Russia's response to the proposed 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine unsatisfactory. Kremlin officials stated they are opposed to a ceasefire and would seek a deal that safeguards Russia's long-term security. Additionally, Vladimir Putin ruled out any territorial concessions and said Ukraine must fully withdraw from regions claimed and partially controlled by the Russian forces.
Russia's response is unsatisfactory, to say the least, if not mysterious and puzzling. To be frank, right now no one knows if Russia will accept the proposal of a 30-day ceasefire deal or add new conditions which we will all deem unacceptable. But we expected this. It's good that after the talks in Saudi Arabia there are no illusions about who is the aggressor and who is the victim of this war, but also who wants peace and who aims to prolong the conflict. I hope that the efforts of the American, Ukrainian and European administrations will result in maybe not a happy end, but a good finish and, most importantly, end of this brutal and needless war.
Is a tough negotiator, and the U.S. will come down hard on Russia if the Kremlin refuses or violates the proposed ceasefire deal. Diane Francis of the Atlantic Council told TVP World. She pointed out that Washington has already warned Russia that it is prepared to send more weapons to Ukraine.
If Putin just turns it down, spurns it or fools around, or signs it and then breaks the deal, then he's going to get the wrath of Trump. I mean, this would be a huge loss of face for Trump, who's trying to make a deal between these two countries. I think that there's no question in my mind that Trump is a tough guy. He will just come down hard. He will flood Ukraine with weaponry, and he will double or triple sanctions and really hammer home to Putin that he's got to stop this.
Dressed in military fatigues, Vladimir Putin paid a surprise visit to troops in Russia's Kursk region on Wednesday. Putin's visit to the contested area followed a message from Washington, D.C., asking him to consider a 30-day ceasefire proposal backed by Ukraine.
Vladimir Putin's trip to the Kursk region took place after Russian forces retook swaths of territory from Ukrainian troops. During this visit, Putin ordered the Russian military to press their lightning advance and retake the rest of the area from Ukraine. Putin also alleged that foreign citizens fighting alongside Ukrainian forces captured in Kursk were not entitled to protections under the Geneva Convention. The Russian president told the servicemen to treat Ukrainians captured in Kursk as, quote, terrorists.
According to our guest Sergei Gerasimchuk, Russia is scrambling to recapture as much territory as possible before the 30-day ceasefire comes into force. As stated by the Deputy Executive Director of the Ukrainian PRISM Foreign Policy Council, Russia will do whatever it takes to avoid an exchange of territory with Ukraine.
If we had ceasefire immediately, as it was mentioned in the memorandum voiced in Jeddah, then Ukraine would remain in Kursk Oblast. That's something that Putin can hardly accept. And that's why Russian army is pushing hard to achieve the withdrawal of Ukrainian troops from Kursk Oblast. Of course, Ukraine was expecting to use it as a bargaining chip at the negotiations because we have Russians in our territories in territories of 4 oblasts, which Russia already claimed to be the part of their territory, but also in Kharkiv Oblast. And of course, we could negotiate the exchange of territories. Now Russia wants to prevent such a scenario, and Russia takes time to prevent such scenario because I've already heard that there were messages from Moscow that the meeting with President Trump can be possible only by Easter, which means in a month, which means Russia will have plenty of time to focus all their attention on Kursk Oblast and on getting rid of Ukrainian troops there.
Sentiments towards the US and Ukraine have seemingly not changed among common Russians. A quick survey on the streets of Moscow is a showcase of imperialist rhetoric, conspiracy theories, and loyalty to Russian leader Vladimir Putin.
We have to go our own way. They will deceive us anyway. The Americans have deceived us more than once. So what our president is planning, that is what has to happen.
We need to negotiate with Trump on the condition that we keep all the territories and then push on to Kyiv without stopping.
This is just a conspiracy between America and Ukraine. They want to deceive Russia again. Rearm, and then they will trample us together with Europe.
Polish President Andrzej Duda said that it was evident his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump could redeploy Americans' nuclear warheads to Poland. Duda said he recently discussed the matter with Keith Kellogg, the U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine.
As stated by Andrzej Duda in an interview for the Financial Times, since the 1990s, NATO's borders have moved east, and so should the infrastructure. The Polish president said he is hoping to revive a nuclear sharing project that he unsuccessfully presented to Donald Trump's predecessor Joe Biden in 2022. Duda went on to say it was up to Trump to decide where to deploy US nuclear warheads. At the same time, the Polish president recalled Vladimir Putin's announcement that Russia would move its nuclear weapons to the Kaliningrad region, which borders Poland. It is not unknown for Warsaw to host foreign nuclear warheads, as during the Cold War, the country hosted parts of the Soviet nuclear arsenal.
Poland and Lithuania have welcomed the European Parliament's decision to list fortifications on the EU's eastern borders as the bloc's flagship strategic projects. During a visit of the Lithuanian Defense Minister to Warsaw, the two countries have expressed willingness to strengthen their cooperation.
Poland and Lithuania are countries that spend the most on defense in all of NATO relative to the size of their economies. The Lithuanian Defense Minister, Dovilė Šakalienė, has visited Warsaw, and she has met with her Polish counterpart, Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz. Both ministers have lauded the cooperation, the military cooperation between Poland and Lithuania, and have expressed willingness to cooperate even more. Poland and Lithuania both border Belarus and Russia, and they see these countries as a threat. That's why they're in the process of fortifying their borders with Belarus and Russia.
Baltic defense line and Eastern Shield, in my opinion, just like Vladislav's opinion, are part of one big project, because we really need to ensure that Russia and Belarus, which is now being used as a platform for Russian army, having in mind that we are attacking Ukraine from Belarus, that Russian troops are stationed in Belarus, that all different weapons, including very dangerous ones, are also located in Belarus now. So therefore, our joint work in ensuring that our border is protected as best as possible, as soon as possible.
In April, Poland takes over the Baltic air policing mission, and Warsaw will send 4 F-16 fighter jets to patrol the skies over the Baltic states. From Warsaw for TVP World, Ovidiusz Nicieja.
Finland and Ukraine have signed a new defense cooperation agreement. At the same time, the Finnish Defense Ministry has announced a new military aid package for Ukraine, totaling some 200 million euros.
The deal signed by Finland and Ukraine outlines the two countries' roadmap to deeper defense cooperation. This includes arms, ammunition production, and, especially important given the recent fallout between Washington and Kyiv, intelligence sharing. And the new military aid package includes artillery ammunition, crucial for the fight on the Ukrainian front lines.
The Hungarian government has approved a referendum on Ukraine's potential accession to the European Union. The news was announced by Gergely Gulyás, a minister to the Hungarian Prime Minister's office, following a cabinet meeting on Wednesday.
Gulyás expressed support for recent shifts in U.S. policy toward peace in Ukraine, particularly highlighting the ceasefire proposal accepted by Ukraine and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen as a positive development. However, the minister strongly criticized the European Parliament resolution advocating for more arms shipments to Ukraine, calling it senseless. He also expressed concerns over the European Commission's push for Ukraine to join the EU before 2030, describing it as a shocking and dangerous.
The German outgoing parliament convenes in a special session on Thursday to discuss the so-called Schuldenbremse, or debt brake. The measure would free up enough funds to push Germany's defense spending above 2% GDP.
The debt brake was introduced during the 2009 global financial crisis, capping Germany's structural deficit at 0.35% of GDP. As a consequence, the restriction has limited the German federal government's ability to borrow for investments, including defense. Under a proposal put forward by the Christian Democrats, led by the incoming Chancellor Friedrich Merz, defense spending would be exempt. Infrastructure investments would also be bolstered by a €500 billion special fund. It's a race against time. The measure has backing from Merz's prospective junior coalition partner, the Social Democratic SPD. However, a two-thirds majority is needed to see the measure through. The far-right Alternative for Germany and far-left the Left Party oppose the proposal, and they would hold a blocking minority in the next parliament, set to convene on March 25th. The Greens' support is crucial for Thursday's vote, but that party has expressed doubts about the plan earlier this week.
According to a latest report by one of the largest private banks in Slovakia, CSOB, last year the country doubled its exports of weapons and ammunition. With this shift, Slovakia becomes one of the most significant European arms exporters by share of GDP.
The Central European country achieved record-high arms exports in 2024, worth over €1.2 billion. In Slovakia's economy, the exports of weapons and ammunition accounts for some 0.9% of its GDP. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Slovakia's ammunition manufacturers have received record-size orders. Responding to the report, the Slovakian Defense Minister, Robert Kaliňák, said he was glad his expectations for arms production have been met. With an annual output of over 120,000 shells, Slovakia is among the biggest producers of large-caliber ammunition in Europe.
The Czech Republic is considering a significant increase in its military personnel to address evolving global security challenges. The country's chief of general staff has called for an additional 7,500 troops in the coming years, with plans for further expansion in the long term.
As of early 2024, Czech Republic Army consists of over 27,000 conscripts, over 4,000 active reservists, and a professional military force of around 24,000 troops. The plan is to expand the armed forces to 30,000 professional soldiers and 10,000 reservists by 2030. In line with these plans, Czech Defense Minister Jana Černochová emphasized that the current defense budget set at 2% of GDP may need to rise to 3% to meet the growing demands on the armed forces.
Diana Șoșacă, president of the far-right SOS Romania party, has officially submitted her candidacy for Romania's presidential elections. This marks her second attempt at running for the presidency after the Constitutional Court rejected her candidacy during last year's elections. Along with submitting her candidacy, Șoșacă has requested to attend the Electoral Commission meeting where her application will be evaluated. Prior to submitting her candidacy, Șoșacă posted a message on Facebook addressed to the Commission and the Constitutional Court. In the post, she referenced a legal principle that no one should be punished twice for the same act. Șoșacă had previously attempted to run in the autumn elections, but was disqualified by the Constitutional Court following challenges that accused her of making statements violating the Romanian constitution. And that concludes our news at 2 p.m. Thanks for joining us and stay tuned for more on TVP World.